Hi, and welcome back to News from the Real World podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Isaac.
Aditra.
And thank you for joining us for the final segment of this week's blog. What do we call this? Podcast?
Podcast.
We're going to start off this section talking about an article in Salon.com about the newest Harvard Lampoon editor, Alexis Wilkinson. And not that it matters, but she's the first black woman, well, I guess it does matter, the first black woman to have the role as the editor of the Harvard Lampoon. What do we guys think about this?
I thought it was a fun article.
I thought it was great that it was okay. So sorry, a little more background. So her first move was to launch this parody site of the Huffington Post called the Huffington Psst, Psst, which isn't that funny, but I'm sure there were other names for it actually that they wouldn't allow that they were going to do before Huffington Poon. I think
Huffington Poon is the one
right.
that got canceled.
Yeah, that's maybe a little too racy.
And the Harvard Lampoon is like pretty old.
138 years. Yeah, it's maybe the oldest academic comedy paper. I don't know. Is that a thing? Does anybody keep track of that?
There are statistics for that.
Yeah. One would think it would be. Do we have one of these? Does CMU have a comedy paper? No.
I think like once a year.
I nominate Isaac Rudich, editor of the first CMU comedy paper.
The Tartan does one funny paper every semester, but it's.
I really wanted this article. Okay, so Salon finds this out and decides to interview Alexis Wilkinson about her role and about this parody blog. And I really wanted this article to be in Huffington Post, actually. I think they really missed an opportunity here to bring the comedy home. And maybe they will, who knows. But of course, Salon picked it up, being Huffington Post, a big, what's the word I'm looking for?
News.
Well, they're rivals to a certain extent, right? In terms of editorial content, at least.
Well, Alexis said she knew the new Huffington, the woman Huffington.
Ariana.
That was it. So yeah, I'm surprised they didn't. You'd think they'd work together on it. Yeah,
and maybe there is more. Inclusion than we know about. Maybe there's a behind-the-scenes thing. Because actually, it's good press for Huffington Post too, right? Like any coverage is good coverage. So there's certainly maybe more people who are reading Huffington Post today based on that. So I don't know. I wish we had one of these papers here.
Yeah, I didn't actually read the parody.
No.
But she said it's temporary, that it'll only be up through October.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because she didn't want it to be. They do a parody every year, and she didn't want to stop that. So she wanted her parody to also be temporary,
right? To
give other people the chance as well.
Yeah, and so she'll have the Post for a year, and it's great that after 138 years, it only took that long for Harvard to nominate a black woman. Yeah, it's good. It's progress. Next, we're all shocked and morally outraged that
What a surprise!
Pretty shocked and surprised that artists, entertainment artists, Justin Bieber especially, apparently buy their own tickets to their events when they go on sale, or perhaps slightly before they go on sale. We don't really know. And then scalp them to their own fans. Justin Bieber's especially. This was in a article on a website called Ticket News, the source for ticketing news and information, which apparently there's one of these now too. So, yeah, I'm not too surprised actually. Anybody else?
I'm not surprised, and it made sense to me that concerts are a luxury, not a necessity. So I think if they want to sell their tickets for more, then they have the right. I guess they should be selling it on the open market as opposed to their friends, but I don't think selling a bunch of the tickets for a lot more money is really against any sort of moral.
Well, I guess it's a question of sort of insider trading. It's fair to me if they have to buy their tickets at the same time that everybody else gets to. If the initial market is free, then I agree that it's not morally reprehensible, although it's just kind of lame.
Yeah.
But
It kind of reminded me of an article a long time ago, not from News from the Real World, where the
you read other things other than
Other
news from the
things,
real
what do you
world?
read?
Okay.
Isaac, you need to stop that right
To be
now.
fair, it was about games.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All the big game console companies are they did an interview together, and they said people have been complaining about our high prices, and every time we release a new console it's outrageous, but it's a luxury, you don't need it. If
Right.
you can't afford it, then don't buy it. And I
Mhm.
feel like the concerts are kind of the same way. If the ticket's too much, then just don't buy it.
Well, there's another argument there, though, that there will always be people who can't afford it, right? There's always going to
That's
be people who can't afford it, and more we're becoming a culture where there's a big division between people who can't afford luxuries like going to a concert and buying a game console, and lots of people who can. And I don't know if I mean, obviously, these entertainers probably don't care two bits about that, but
I think it's also on it depends on like the fans themselves. You know what I mean? Like if they're so crazy about if they're so crazy about Justin Bieber, so like whatever they do, like they don't actually care
Yeah.
how expensive it's
Yeah.
gonna be. They're just like, I'm just gonna buy it. I mean, like I this is like not my own experience, but like I have a friend who's like so crazy about this singer, Johnny the singer, and he was like, let's say he's like Beyonce. So he was like, and she's gonna be like, I don't care about anything as long as like I can like go. Is there everything that relates to
Yeah.
Beyonce? I'm just gonna like purchase.
right.
it.
And that's the
So
real
that's-
problem
I mean,
that,
that's
that a lot of people are just not able to go to the shows now because of the volume of
Of
tickets that are being
tickets.
withheld.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. It sounds like a problem. It sounds like a first world problem to me. So like, it doesn't really upset me that much. Although I will say that I hold a dear place in my heart for a lot of bands that I grew up with. Fugazi, for one, was one of my favorite DC punk bands. They still to this day refuse to play a show that charges more than $10 to get in, which is great. And mostly they play free
Awesome.
shows. And there was, you know, when I was growing up in that scene, there was a lot of push for that, like to be inclusive, to get people to come to the shows. That the important thing is that people are seeing your art. And I guess this is just a really ugly sort of illustration of how, for these people, that is not the case anymore at all. They could care less, as long as they get their money. Anyway, so that's the world
Okay.
that we live in. Thank you, Justin Bieber. Last article of the week, big controversy in South Williamsburg here in Pennsylvania. We're not going to be putting on Spamalot at the high school there.
Just because?
Due to homosexual overtones was the...
It's just
That is
like-
the argument.
Oh, that's so lame.
I think it's like
I don't
so
even
ridiculous.
know what they're talking about exactly. I've never seen Spamalot.
I never seen it either.
I don't know the show well enough to know what they're talking about, but I don't really think it matters. I think
Of course, it doesn't matter, but
But
I
yeah,
do
no,
wonder where
I mean,
they're
I'm
even getting
curious.
it.
I'm curious where it comes from, but I'm really just shocked that they would do that. That they would just cancel a school, the school show for that reason. It's so
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think it's more of it's really more of an issue because this is it's a public school, so this
Yeah.
public school gets public funding, and there's a tendency, at least for me, like I'm going to associate the public school with the policies of the state from which they receive their funding, and since when is being gay in Pennsylvania any kind of like bad, like why was there a negative connotation to that?
right.
When it comes to the state, I mean, when it comes to the state, of course, there's lots of things that the state does that makes it a problem to be gay in Pennsylvania.
Living in Pittsburgh, it's hard to remember that besides Philadelphia, the rest of Pennsylvania is pretty
Conservative.
Conservative.
pretty conservative. Yeah.
Of those
Yeah.
topics, yeah.
I find Pittsburgh fairly conservative, personally. So, so I mean, it's I guess is it surprising to me that a public school would react this way? I don't know. I guess coming from a much more liberal area where there's very little difference politically between. In fact, in San Francisco, the more conservative political movements are often from the gay community. In fact, a lot of times, like there's really no political difference between gay and straight in San Francisco, and not in California at large, but in San Francisco especially. So to me, like, it's not a big surprise that in a state that's run like Pennsylvania that it would be more of an issue. I don't know. Help me out here, guys.
I don't know. I'm not surprised that they would want to do it. I'm surprised that it happened though. Especially now that they're on the national news for it, I think someone's gonna get fired. I don't think this ends well for everyone.
You think so?
Well, to me, it's
That's a school district thing, right? Like, so the school district would have to say, this is something you've done that's bad, you're fired, right? Like, it's
Right.
the principal. I'm not sure if South Williamsport School District's gonna go that way. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess. I kind of thought the national pressure tends to change things.
Yeah,
I
hopefully.
think that on their own they probably wouldn't do anything, but now that everyone's looking, they might have.
Why didn't they just say they were canceling it for some other reason?
I think they did, and they got caught.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's why it was such a big
Maybe
deal,
it
was
was
because they said they were canceling it just for some bull reason, and then someone found an email or something where they were like, "We're canceling it because it's gay."
Right. So the principals was saying that should be able to sign up for a play and know that it's school sponsored and that they won't have to make moral or ethical decisions. That's the main, that was their backtrack, right? Those are the things that they're saying, that the students shouldn't have to show up to a play and it should be so bland that they couldn't possibly have a moral or ethical problem with fulfilling that role.
Because most theater doesn't make any kind of statement.
No,
It's
of
just-
course not.
It's
Why would we want to make statements? It's terrible. It's terrible news. Yeah, so I'm not sure what play they're going to choose to do. Pirates of Penzance, I hear, is good for high school theater.
Grease.
Grease is
fairly
a tried and
old
true. Yeah, I think you can. Although there's definitely like sex in Grease. You know, there's.
Well, yeah, but it's it's.
Did she put up a fight? I always thought I sang that I was in Greece, big surprise in high school, and
I can do that.
just in the chorus. I was nobody important, but I got to sing that line. Did she put up a fight? And I always thought, like, is anyone in the audience listening to this line? This is like a rape line in like
Also at the end she changes for him.
Right.
Like it doesn't end like happily. It ends with them together because she was like, whatever, I'll just do whatever you want.
I really, and I think maybe the best political reaction to this thing happening in South Williamsport would be for some other high school to like say we can't do Grease, like as a joke almost. Be like, there's all these reasons why we can't do Grease. Like there's all this heterosexual content in it. It's terrible. That's what I would do. Maybe I should become a high school principal so I can do that. What do you think?
Nileco.
I'm
Sounds
all for
good.
You look
Oh,
good.
Andrew.
I think by the time I got hired, the school had blown over.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this merry-go-round that we call the News from the Real World podcast. Please join us next week where we'll try to be just as entertaining. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.